it's Tia, aka Everyday Monet, and I'm here with another tag video. And this is the Eyeshadow Junkie Tag, and I'm definitely an eyeshadow junkie if you've watched any of my videos. So real quick, I am wearing the Too Faced Sex on the Peach lipstick on my lips, and I love it. I used the Urban Decay Jean-Michel Basquiat liner on my lower lash line, and I have the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette on my eyes. So oh, and I put on new press-on nails. Look at them. They're like matte, sort of army green. Oh my god. All right, so let's get started. The first question is your favorite drugstore line for eyeshadow. I'd say that overall the NYX line is one of my favorites for eyeshadow. I have a bunch of different NYX palettes. I think they work well, they perform. I never really have to worry when I'm using them. Also, I feel like Wet n Wild has some good eyeshadow palettes. I just picked up their newly formulated. This one is in Not a Basic Peach. So I haven't used this yet, but I have used other shadows of theirs and really love those. So I would say that would be the best for drugstore, in my opinion. The next one is your favorite eyeshadow primer. I have one eyeshadow primer that I use all the time, and that is the Lorac Behind the Scenes eyeshadow primer. I love Lorac shadows. They almost always come with a free primer, so I don't really have to buy primer too much. I used to really love the Urban Decay primer potion. I don't think there's an issue at all with it, but I have a million of those, so I'm just using them up. They work really well and I like them. But this is also an eyeshadow primer that I use. These are the Too Faced Glitter Glue eyeshadow primer for more glittery shadows, and also the NYX glitter primer work very well. So I wanted to share those because they're primers and you might want to know. Okay, number 3, first ever. Do you still use it? My first ever in life eyeshadow purchase would have been from Mary Kay, and obviously no, I don't still use it because it's super old. But in terms of any of the recent things in the last several years where I really started to get back into makeup, specifically eyeshadow palettes, I would have to say was the Too Faced Boudoir Eyes palette, and I used that quite a bit. I recently decluttered it because I just felt like it was getting a little bit old, so I would use it, but I don't use it anymore because it's too old. Number 4 is best drugstore eyeshadow dupes. I'm not really into that whole looking for dupes for stuff. One that I would say is affordable, I wouldn't call it drugstore. So I would say one dupe or similar shadows that I have found is for the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. This is an extremely expensive palette, and so I think one dupe for it would be the color. Now, I actually took out all of my ColourPop shadows from their magnetic cases, but a lot of them are in my Z palette now. So they would be like these shades here, this orangey shade. So I do feel like in terms of the layout, it is going to be the most dupe-esque. I have been checking out some palettes from a company called Bad Habit, and they actually do full-on. I actually have a bunch of their palettes, but I've only tried out this one, which is the Athena palette, and I believe this is duping a Huda Beauty palette. I love this palette. It performs well. I mean, these are shade for shade dupes. I never got this Huda Beauty palette. I got the rose gold one and hated it. But I like this one, so if you ever want to check out some dupes, you can get them on Shop Hush. They're, $15 or less, so that's what I have in terms of dupes. The most underrated in my opinion is Cargo. I have a huge Cargo collection. I absolutely love them. I think their shadows are very reliable, very blendable. I love the color combinations, and I also feel like they tend to run a little cool tone sometimes, and there's not a lot of that where companies are really running cool. This is one of their more recent palettes, which was the Emerald City eyeshadow palette. Like, I have all of these Cargo shadows. I should do a whole video. Ones that I've used a lot was the Vintage Escapes palette. Very neutral, very nice in that regard. And also the Venice. I just don't think people... This one was super fun. This is the You Had Me at Aloha. There's a lot of fun things happening here. You have a little pop of a yellow, some purple stuff, and then here's a very cool toned one going on, and this one is in the Getaway palette. So next question is my favorite eyeshadow singles. These are my favorite eyeshadow singles. They're in my Z palette here. These ones, the smaller ones are from ColourPop, and then the larger ones are from Lunatic Cosmetics. They're the only singles I have, and I wasn't really into singles very much. And this is what I have, and I really use this palette a lot, and I love them. The Lunatic Cosmetic shadows are great payoff, great color payoff, great pigmentation, quality is there. I really love the ColourPop shadows. I actually got all of my ColourPop shadows in, you know, in the pre-made palettes, you know, like the My Little Pony palette, the Yes Please palette. I actually took them out of there and then put them in a Z palette. I have 2 different Z palettes that I use, so that's how I use them. And that would be my favorite singles. The next one is your favorite cream eyeshadow. I really shy away from cream products in general. But one that I used that I absolutely loved was this, and this is an affordable brand. I got this at Gabriel Brothers for $6.99. This is that W7 brand, and these are the eye cushion shadows, and this is the one in Starlight. And I was pleasantly surprised from these. I feel like the lighter shades don't show up as well on my skin. I guess they do. But I think that's great color payoff for $6.99 if you've never tried a cushion shadow or the W7 brand. I also, there's an all matte palette from W7 that I think is amazing, and I think it was $3.99. So that's that. The next one is your favorite neutral eyeshadow. I do feel like, in terms of neutral shadows, I still think that any of the Naked palettes, they perform well. I love the formula. I think they will get you where you need to go in terms of neutral. Another one that's sort of underrated that I think people don't really take a look at is the Stila Metal and Matte in terms of neutral shadows. And that's what that looks like. These perform, you have 6 and 6, and they perform really well. I also think that the Kat Von D Shade and Light is a great neutral palette. And, you know, if you kind of want to stay neutral but kick it up a notch, I usually pair the Shade and Light Glimmer palette, which I really enjoyed. I mean, some people didn't. And I pair that. This Cargo palette in this Vintage Escapes. This is a great neutral palette to use, so I would suggest that one. And then 2 more neutral palettes, because I'm just like really giving you neutral palettes a lot of options. I think these Bare Sensuals palettes, they don't give enough hype at all. This one is going to pull a little bit more with the cool tone and the purplies, but these are still neutral, but they're going to be a little more fun. And I also think that this Butter London Pretty Proper in their little clutch shadows, this is a great little neutral palette. This would be good for someone who's just starting out or doesn't have a lot of time to be fussing around. You have 3 matte shades, and 3 shimmers. And this is the favorite colored eyeshadows. I'd have to say for sure would be the Viseart Editorial Brights, the Juvia's Place palettes, almost any of them, but this one is the Masquerade Mini. I mean, wait, I'm gonna swatch this pink for you. It's like a pink with like a gold glitter. And then the blue color there. They do colored shadows better than a lot of places. I also love my Kat Von D colored shadows. You can see here in the Saint and Sinner palette, the colored side of that one is awesome. And I love those. And then I also got the little Huda Beauty Mini. I thought the color payoff for this little Huda Beauty Electric Obsessions palette was amazing. And I've used this and loved this. So that's what I have for colored. And then the last question is best eyeshadow palette ever. I have a hard time. I mean, I have such a large collection. I don't even know how I would narrow that down. I do really feel like this Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes is a really great palette. It's something that I love. The shadows are pigmented. They blend. I just think this whole concept, this was a really, like, they really... I also feel like the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe was a really good palette. This is a versatile palette. If you want to buy something for someone who either is just getting started in makeup, a teenager, someone who wants to try something different, this is an amazing palette. This is a palette that someone could use and use and use and never get bored with. Last, my best shadows ever, for me, for what I love, are the BH Cosmetics, their baked shadows. So the Zodiac palette is nice because it has some mattes in there too. But I love this formula. I think it works amazing. It does take a little bit of work, different than some people are used to. I love this. This one is the Wild and Alluring. I have the Galaxy Chic, the Solar Flare, the Supernova. These ones are going to be sort of your more smokier ones. The Galaxy Chic here is just really a lot of like jewel tone type situation. And then the one they most recently came out with is the Solar Flare. And this is just really your warm tone, goldy sort of colors. So I absolutely love their baked shadows. Okay, so we made it to the end, and that is what I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a comment about what is your best eyeshadow palette ever. I would love to know. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video.